Welcome to the Steel Birds podcast, starring your hosts Corey King and Harry Brockington the Fourth, aka Brock. What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing, dog?
How goes it?
Man, another day.
Yeah. Streets are saying college football 25 is fire. You can attest.
It is that thing. It is that thing. I was up till 3 a.m. playing that. Like I was
Yeah.
back being 16 again.
For real. Good times. I'm glad that shit's back, man. It's
Yeah,
been way too long. We
way too
needed
long.
that. It's better than Madden, like everything wise, or
Man, for the first few hours of playing it, the mechanics are cool. So I gotta check out everything else. But right now, it's looking promising, man. So
okay.
hopefully it stays that way.
All right. We'll take it. But yeah, so today it's part 2 of our power rankings. We did like a top 17. We miscounted. We can't count. So we did 17 last week.
Right.
This week we're gonna do a top 15. So for Brock, from 32 to 16, we got the Broncos, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Panthers, Giants, Titans, Saints, Commanders, Vikings, Cardinals, Colts, Falcons, Bucks, Chargers, Seahawks, Jags, Bears. For me, I had Giants, Patriots, Broncos, Panthers, Raiders, Titans, Commanders, Saints, Vikings, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Seahawks, Colts, Jags, Falcons, Bears, and the Rams at 16. So without further ado, at 15, Brock, what you got, man?
Yeah, man. As we were talking about, this is where it gets kind of
Yeah, I guess a
hard, kind
little.
of tough to see
Yeah.
what it's going to be. So this is going to be kind of based off of just, schedule, what we think could possibly happen. Because, any of these teams we're about to name could end up having even worse and be where we've already ranked teams or, super exceed, what we're going to say. So
Yeah.
for
Yep.
me, for 15, I'm going to go Rams. I love the coach. Obviously, McVay is, right up there with Shanahan and Andy Reid in my mind. Top three coach in the
Yep.
league. But we talked about how he lost Aaron Donald. Hopefully that defense is going to be a shadow of what it was. That's going to be big for them. They kind of have the offense together, hoping that Matthew Stafford stays healthy. But they're obviously in a tough division. We don't know how good, Cardinals might be sneaky good. People talk about that and all that. So Seahawks already have a good defense. And we already know what the Niners are. So, that's always going to be hard playing those teams twice a year. So I'm going to have them at 15 and see where they're at by the end of the season.
Gotcha. Yep. Same sort of thinking there with me. For me, I'm going to put the Browns at 15.
Okay.
This is a team with talent everywhere. Defense played out of its mind last year under Jim Schwartz. They really took a step, and I don't see them having any sort of like major drop off. Defense is kind of, we talk about it like it's not really sticky year to year. There's going to be some negative regression with their defense, but at the same time, I like the pieces they have and the players, the way they played. But at the same time, offensively, they could have all the pieces in the world, but without average to above average QB play, they just can't get it done. And
Facts.
Deshaun Watson has yet to show that he's the guy that, kind of earned that contract regardless of what he did off the field. He was a really good quarterback, and we haven't seen that from him since he's been with the Browns. And with Joe Flacco, you saw, that wasn't exceptional QB play, but the team took off under him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was probably part of the reason why they didn't bring him back, because they were kind of probably worried about that. But if Deshaun Watson can look somewhat decent, I wouldn't be surprised if this team took off and end up being like a top 10 team. But expecting the worst kind of for me, I'm just gonna have them at 15 because I don't see them really excelling. But yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. What you got at 14?
That's funny because I feel like
That's
majority
sweet
of
again.
this we've gone back to back with the teams like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have the Browns at 14
Yeah.
for similar reasons. As you said, Deshaun just hasn't been himself, whatsoever, and rightfully so. Um, what he did is what he did. What happened off the field is what happened off the field. But obviously, that's probably mentally draining for him to walk around Ohio and know that whenever people see him, it's not the way he's used to people seeing him, where it's just like, dang, that's Deshaun Watson. It's more like you know on the cartoons where the mom was kind of shooing the kids. You know what I mean?
The
So
SpongeBob meme,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it's like that
Yep.
regardless of what people want to say, that does something to the mind, obviously,
Clearly.
clearly.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
two, he didn't really play ball for almost 2 years. So it's like you got the mental side of it, but then you also got like, bro wasn't actually out there and playing
Yeah,
and
that
growing and
speed,
being with the
that
team.
NFL speed.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So they're out of everybody in the Steelers division, I despise the Browns the most because they talk the most shit, but they really haven't backed it up. But I feel
Right.
bad for him, in that situation, regardless of how
I
I feel about the team and the organization. But
I know
for
you
that
love
reason,
Myles Garrett. That's your guy.
yeah, man, whatever, man, whatever. That's a whole nother story conversation.
Right.
But yeah, man, the defense is probably going to carry them. Can't say anything negative really about the defense and the head coach Kevin Stefanski. He's
Yeah.
proven that he deserves
Facts.
to be there. 14 is not bad, but with our division that they're in, and uh, you always got to expect crazy games all the time when you're playing in that division.
Yeah.
We just really don't know about Nick Chubb either. Him coming off that nasty
Yep.
injury, that's a
Yep.
big part of their team. So that's kind of why I got them at 14.
Yeah. I feel that. At 14 for me, I'm gonna throw the Dolphins in there. They obviously offensively, were kind of like innovators, game changers under Mike. What's his last name? McDaniel.
McDaniel, yep.
Yeah. So that offense has some of the fastest people I've ever seen at multiple positions all over the field. But at the same time, when they played kind of people at
Yep.
their competition level, it kind of didn't seem like it was going according to plan. They kind of crumbled under stress and under pressure, and on the road in tough environments, you kind of saw some cracks in that perfect offense. And I think part of that is like all the questions around their QB. Tua, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? There's always like speculation
His
around
arm.
whether he can carry a
Yep.
team or is he just a
Auburn.
part of the system. It's hard to say right now. Yeah, his arm talent, all of that. So, they have I think they have a pretty easy schedule. But I just feel like I would like to see it first. And on the defensive side, they got rid of Vic Fangio, who is the Eagles' defensive coordinator now. So will that defense improve? I know Jalen Ramsey and some of those guys weren't a fan of him, and they wanted to kind of play all over the field and do a lot of things. And Vic Fangio wasn't
Yeah.
really having that. So maybe out of spite, they're going to come together and start hooping, start balling. But yeah,
Definitely.
I would like to really see it before
Okay.
I'm ranking them highly. So I'm gonna have them right in the middle of the
So for
pack there
13,
at
I'm gonna
14.
have the Jets.
Yeah, what you got? 13
For me, they had all that hype, coming into last season, and
Jets.
unfortunately, we saw what happened with Aaron Rodgers, just 4 plays in, which was unfortunate. But for me, I still believe in Aaron Rodgers. I know he has a lot of off the field distractions, and even though he says that the team shouldn't be worried about that, and I don't know if he really understands that he's a part of a lot of those distractions. But regardless of that, I still believe in his arm talent and him wanting to win and all that. As long
Yeah,
as his rehab is done, fine. I feel like mentally and physically, the rest of his body and his mind, it's all there for him to be what he needs to be to take that young team to the next level. What I don't really believe in is the head coach. Robert Saleh doesn't really seem to be it. The decisions he chooses to make, how he handled the Zach Wilson situation was really weird to me.
yeah,
That front office is not really put together well. They're very, I guess the word would be impulsive. They do things, they get scared, and they just do something instead of like really kind of thinking it out like other organizations do. So I don't
Mm.
believe in those two facets of that organization, those are huge parts of an organization as a head coach in the front office. So I think another defense is carrying this team type of thing, even though their offense is not terrible. Offensive line is also kind of an issue. They think that they kind of put that together well by adding a 40-year-old tackle and another tackle who has had some injuries. So I don't really think that's shoring up
Right.
the line, kind of like some other teams have done in the draft. So I'm going to have them at a 13 and just see where they could obviously go beyond that and surprise everyone, or it could be a shit show, which hopefully it isn't. But that's where I'm going to place them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got him. I got him at that same spot. Same sort of thinking. It's a lot of. I think they're a little overvalued right now. People are just
Same,
kind of same
yeah,
as last year. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, that defense, those pieces, they're gonna they might win the Super Bowl. But we've seen now that
right.
take away Aaron Rodgers and what are they? They're a dumpster fire. So even with him, they still might not have the success that they're that everyone's trying to crown them with. And like you said, the coach just you said it perfectly. The way he just kind of handled the whole QB situation last year just didn't make sense to a lot of people. They didn't trade for anyone as an organization, but also he just refused to like play the right guy. Like I don't know why he forced Zach Wilson, when they had other players to try and play, and it just was very strange and not good.
Yeah, definitely.
Frustrating their young receivers. Garrett Wilson deserves better. Hopefully he gets better. But yeah, you said it perfectly. There's
Right.
no reason to have them rank super highly until they show us they aren't the Jets of old. So until then, I'm gonna have them at
Yeah. So
13 as well.
12. I'm gonna have
So
my
now we're
Steelers,
at
man.
12.
I I definitely think we can, be a
Okay.
top, 12 team minimum. We could see what happens. I have us here also because of that gauntlet that, everyone has talked about. We talked about off air. The latter part of our season is all of our divisional opponents. Some people can take that as a positive because, like, for example, we have Cam Sutton coming off of
Yeah.
being suspended, and his first game would be coming off of a bye into divisional play. So you can kind of say, oh, you got your players together who might have been injured. You get to be basically who you would be for the whole season by that time. You can look at it like that, but you could also look at it as like, okay, you have a bunch of injuries, and then you have to go through that gauntlet, that type of thing. So we have this QB situation going on with Russ and Justin Fields. That's kind of got to get figured out before then. But I think we're kind of rolling back to how we used to be, kind of 2017, 2008 with the Killer Bees. I'm hoping that kind of starts, but it's got to be proven. The roster is there, and the GM that we have now, Omar Khan, is kind of showing that we're tired of just being right there or just having the winning seasons. But it's all good that he's doing the good drafting. That's a great sign and everything. And we can be great on paper, but you got to show it when it comes on to those Sundays. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully, I'm wrong and it's a lot higher than that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I am going to finally slot. I saw you had the Chargers at 19. I'm gonna have them at 12, mostly because I'm a fan of. I'm not so much a fan of Jim Harbaugh, like personality
Definitely.
wise. I think he's kind of OD, but I think as a coach, he's the real deal. You know,
Right.
the minute he got to Stanford, he turned things around. They started upsetting USC teams and doing well, and then at Michigan, I think the minute he got there, they went like 10-3
Yeah.
back to back. His first year with the 49ers when he entered the league back in the
You might have been
day,
the
they went
following year.
13-3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they went to Super Bowl that year. or maybe the next year. Yeah. But basically anytime he, starts with a program,
Yeah.
starts with the team, they're a lot better than expected. He seems to win right away. And because of, who he is as a coach and the QB that they have, who's, you know, trying to be thrust into top five
Right.
conversations all the time, but hasn't really won to justify that conversation yet. But talent wise, Justin Herbert is for sure top five. Um, yeah, so coach, QB, and the schedule, I think, is a good recipe for them to really take a jump. So I got them doing a lot better
Okay.
than I think most
Yeah.
people have them slotted. So I got them at 12.
Yeah. For 11, I'm gonna put the
Yeah.
Dolphins at 11.
So now we're at 11.
Similar reasons again. I just the offensive
Gotcha.
mindset with McDaniel is there. The offensive players are there. Two is just really hot and cold. I don't believe in his arm all the time. Sometimes, he's throwing dimes to Tyreek and Waddle, and then other times he's just like he's dirty it, or it's interceptions, and it just doesn't really make sense. And people like call him coward, and
Yeah.
Nick Wright has said things like it's cold weather for him whenever he gets into the environment where he's playing the Bills or the Patriots late in the season. It could be whatever it is, but he just plays too inconsistent for me. I know he has all the passing yards and all that, but it's just like when it comes down to it, we see what happened in the Bills game and how he played. So for me, that's going to be a big issue. And then their defense, man, they lost Nick Chubb and well, not Nick Chubb, it's his cousin. Blanking on his name. Bradley Chubb, yeah, it's his cousin. They lost him ACL. And then they had Jalen Phillips, same thing, ACL.
Yeah.
So two of their edge rushers,
Yep.
out. You saw in the draft, they went and drafted two young rookie edge rushers, Chop Robinson, and I forget the other that they drafted, but trying to get that together, and new defensive coordinator as well too. So I just I feel like they're going to take a step back this year. It's not going to be one of those like do they think they win the division this year? I don't think that's within their grasp.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Okay.
Now at 11, I'm gonna slot your Steelers in there. Like we talked about, schedule is extremely hard. So wouldn't be surprised if they drop a little farther, but until Mike Tomlin and them prove that they can't have a winning season, I'm gonna assume they're gonna be in the middle of the pack, if not a little better. And just based on how well you guys drafted, with consensus and the pieces that you got, along with similar to the Browns, with average QB play, who knows how far your team could go. So I think the vibes are going to be a lot better, and with average to above average QB play, I think you guys can do well this year, barring any sort of major setback, and seeing how you guys end up going into that gauntlet at the end of the season. We'll see how it all shakes out, but I think in terms of just overall, I guess like vibes again. Just overall, the Steelers are entering this year with a lot more optimism, in my opinion, than last year. So I think it'll be a good showing. Yeah. So now we are at 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt,
so at 10, I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
So
I'm gonna give them top 10 just based off of their offensive power that they have. Their defense is looking like it's going to be pretty decent as well. But just a big question mark is going to be Joe Burrow. Who's been in talks before. Some of his injuries as top two. It's Patrick Mahomes and him, because he's shown that he's the one that can beat Pat. And how accurate he is. His sneaky running ability. He's still athletic.
Right.
But the big, negative for his game is just those injuries, man. And so it's been 3 straight injuries. And so season-ending injuries, but having serious injuries, and if there's a fourth one, man,
Season ending,
we
yeah.
have to just be
Yeah.
honest and say
Yeah.
that he's injury prone. It could just be bad luck right now, even though 3 will be enough for me to say it personally. But if it happens again this season, we've got to place that on him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then it's looking like for the Bengals, that's going to be really hard because you're always going to be playing games without him.
Yep.
That's not
Yep.
in that division. Having to go against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, that's not the way to go. So, yeah, that's where I'm gonna have him. It's really all gonna be a wait and see with Joe Burrow because everything else
Yeah.
goes through him, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I'm
Okay.
gonna have them soon, but at 10 for me, I'm gonna have the Bills. They lost a major piece at receiver who, it may be a big impact, it may not be. It seemed felt like they were kind of tired of him, tired of the diva shit with Stephon Diggs. But at the same time, that's a really, really hard position to replace. They drafted Keon Coleman. But is he going to have that sort of like major impact that Stephon Diggs had when he came to the Bills? I don't know. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I think, in my opinion, Josh Allen is QB2 to Patrick Mahomes, and when you have a QB who's top 3, top 5 in the league, you have a chance. So I don't think that organization and that QB and coach combo have, you know, I don't think they're worth like underrating. I think until they prove that there are some losers, I think I should have them at least in the top 10. And even with a tough schedule and some pieces leaving them, I think they can
And
still
they've won 4
make some
straight
noise. And in
too.
that division they're in, there's still a chance that they can win it. It's really just them and the Jets. I don't really believe in the Dolphins, and definitely don't believe in the Patriots. So, they could still take a step back in terms of what we've seen from the Bills, but still end up winning that division and, be a middle of the pack team that wins a division like the fucking NFC South every year. They could be the NFC
Okay.
South this year. So yeah, I'm
I'm
gonna have
gonna
them
go
at
with the
10.
Cowboys there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 9. Who you got?
Kind of sick of hearing about them. They're
Cowboys.
the team of the '90s, and 90s babies are some of us are 30, some of us are nearing 30. So
Yeah.
um,
Sure.
yeah, so and then this
Yeah.
drama that's
Right. I haven't
with
seen them win
CD
shit in my
and
life.
them, I don't know what blanking on his name, Jones. That's his last name, the owner, Jerry Jones. Yeah, that's right. But I don't understand his.
Jerry
He
Jones,
wants to make
Stephen
all the
Jones is the
decisions which he
GM,
should
but
not be
yeah.
making.
Yeah.
You are good with finances and learning, knowing how to spend money. You've been rich your whole life. You understand that. Let's just figure that out for them. Make sure that doesn't go.
All right. All
Crazy,
right.
but stay away from the football side of it. And he refuses to do that. So now you're not paying a guy who he's had every season. He's available. His run after catch, red zone, everything that you could add, speed, everything that you're asking of a wide receiver, CD has done, but you don't want to pay him. Doesn't make sense. Then they
Yeah.
have the Dak situation. Dak's on vacation with his wife, in a boot. It's like there's just a lot of stuff going on with them, man.
Yeah.
And it's all type of stuff, man. Everything is going, and at the end of the
Dak
day,
out
when it
there
comes down to
unable
it,
to
they do what they
dance
do.
on the
They
boats.
go to the NFC Championship, or
Yeah.
they lose in the divisional. It's always something with them. So, out of respect for just the roster that they have, and Micah Parsons and Trayvon, all of them, I'm gonna have them at 9. But I could see worse depending on what's going on with Dak, and even if they lose CD, we don't know what's gonna happen. So, I got them at 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Um 9 for me is gonna be the Bengals now. same thing as you, Joe Burrow, 3 season-ending injuries in a row. It's really tough. It's just one of those situations where it's like, oh, coulda, woulda, shoulda won the Super Bowl. Should have, if he was healthy, he beat Mahomes. Could
Right.
have won multiple, but at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are, and the Bengals just haven't been able to get over that hump. Injuries aside, they have the coach, it seems, which is
Yeah.
something I had to take back, bite my tongue on. I was a big Zach Taylor hater, but seems they have the coach, they have the QB, they have the team, so they need to go out there and get it done. And hopefully, Joe Burrow is healthy this year, and they
Yeah.
they do
Exactly.
their thing. They should be in the top 5 conversation every year with that QB, but with the injuries and that division, I'm gonna
Okay.
just slot them in at 9 and
So
hope for
8.
the best for them.
Yep. I'm gonna
But
have
we'll
the
see.
Bills there now.
Yeah.
I do
Number
think
8.
that losing Stephon, whatever people
Okay.
wanted to say about the latter part of that season, his last game, he's still elite in my eyes, and we're going to get to see it in a crowded Texans wide receiver room. So if he does it even there, I don't want to hear no, it's because then it's going to turn around. Oh, it's C.J. Stroud and whatever. No, he's in a crowded wide receiver room where he could get lost because he's supposed to be old and whatever the heck people are trying to say. But I think he's still that dude. So we'll see what he ends up doing. But the Bills lose him. They're going to have to be relying a lot on a rookie and a second-year player, Keon Coleman, and then their tight end Dalton Kincaid. Came onto the scene. He seems like he's going to be, all-star for them. But you're going to be leaning on some young dudes to do the thing for you because Josh Allen can only see it and throw it to them. They got to catch it and do the rest. So really don't really believe as much as I did at the beginning in Sean
Yep.
McDermott. So I think he, if anybody, is kind of sneaky hot seat right now. If they can't, go past the divisional round, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they move him because, Josh Allen has brought the Bills into prominence and, no one's really ever talked about them in years. So that's all been great, but you can't just keep getting to the same spot every year and then just being like, oh, next year. It's like, yeah, as soon next year is almost going to be where he's 34, 30,
Yeah.
you got to start doing it when he's in his prime. So, I,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Aaron
got over the
Rodgers-esque
hump,
in a
man. And
way,
so
where
I
it's
feel like
like
they're going to kind
he
of,
had opportunities to really
8 is
go,
not
but
bad, but I
he
feel like
never got
they're going to
back.
kind of be
Yeah.
what they are,
Yeah.
again. So,
Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that. 8 for me, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys now. You know, like you said, talent wise, QB, receiver, defense, everything, take the star off the helmets, and that's
right.
a team that any fan base would be excited about. But then them being the Cowboys, it just always, like you said, and word to Stephen A, just always something bad's always going to happen. They don't know how to really finish a season for some reason. They're kind of cursed. So yeah,
Could be.
Speaking of hot seats, like you were saying, I think this might be it for Mike McCarthy. It might be it for Dak too. They might just
Right.
end up paying CD and hope to kind of reset here if the season doesn't go the way they want to. So yeah, I'm not really sure where they're going to be, but I think based off talent and just kind of their drive and their hopes for this year, they're gonna definitely try to be a lot better than they are, obviously. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if they completely collapse and end up being like a bottom tier team, just because of all these expectations and all this hope that they've put into this team year after year. It could all just come crumbling down. But yeah. And like you were saying with Jerry Jones, man, it just seems like as he gets older, it seems like he's just doing more weird and not good things for them. Like when you started talking about it, I was reminded about how in the draft he was talking about how high Jonathan Brooks was on their draft board. Like before day 2 started, he's like, "Yeah, Jonathan Brooks really high on our draft board," and his son is looking
Yeah.
at him like, "Shut the fuck up!" And then the Panthers
You never
ended up
want to relate
drafting him. They
old
didn't
age
even
to
end up
being
getting him.
senile,
So
but
stuff like
I'm just
that
going to say
just
that. That's all I'm going to say.
just
You don't
goes to
want to
show
relate
that's
those
like,
two things, but that's kind of it's teetering on
yeah,
that. So I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't. It's not looking good over there, but with the top 10 QB and
Yeah.
a good defense, which they're always going to have. They got my guy Mike Zimmer coaching the defense now.
No.
They should be in the conversation. So I don't think 8 is that low for them, but
Yeah, for
we'll
7, I'm
fucking
going to have the
see.
Packers now.
So now we are at
Liked how
7.
Jordan Love played down the stretch. I need to
Okay.
see some more consistency, not in his game, but just like another year of it. I think of kind of just kind of showing that he's here to stay.
Yeah.
Because it looks
But
like it's
yeah,
there,
he's here
but
to stay for sure.
it could have just been 1 year.
Yeah.
So I need to kind of see it again.
Yeah.
But like that team, like the wide
Yeah.
receivers that they have a very loaded wide receiver, not just at the top 3, but even the guys after that are very good. Their line is shaping up to be, just fine. And their defense is really going to be, the key, I think. Can that defense be what it needs to be? But Matt LaFleur, another coach that's proven that he's here to stay. And, lucky them hitting 3 times in a row on a first round quarterback.
Yeah. It seems like they always hit the lottery on QBs because Jordan Love doesn't.
So.
He doesn't look like someone who's just like good. He looks like he could be, a player, a top 10, top 5 type player. Which kind of, I don't actually. I'll talk about them when I get there. I don't have them at 7, but I'll bring it back up. But yeah, that's a good slot for them. I think that week 1 Eagles Packers game is going to show a lot for both of those teams. That's going to be a interesting start to this season in Brazil.
Okay.
But for me, I'm gonna throw the Texans in at 7.
Just wait till I get to them. I haven't said them
yet. Rile some people up. I don't think it's disrespectful. They had an they had an unbelievable year last year. When the draft day last year, I was thinking they were gonna be a bottom 5 team in the league. Was hoping CJ Stroud showed some promise, but wasn't expecting anything like the season that they got. So, for them to win the division and win a playoff game is really good for them, and I don't see them doing any worse than that this year. So I don't think 7 is a bad spot for them. I don't want to throw them in the top 5 just yet, just because I would like to see it again. I think they have the coach and the QB and the team, but when you get to the top 8, 10 teams in the league, it's kind of hard, to really rank them. It's not like they can't be top 5, but I'm just gonna slot them at 7 for now. Terrible. And I think schedule wise, they are 2, 3. Yeah, it's kind of, based on Warren Sharp's. They kind of are on the harder side. I think like bottom 10 in schedule. So, we'll see. I'm definitely a believer in that team, in that organization now. But not to say last year was a fluke by any means. But let's just wait and see before we, throw them in top 5.
6, I got your Eagles, man.
So, yeah. Now we're at 6.
I don't know. Obviously, how y'all ended the season last year wasn't ideal. Kind of crazy stuff going on. Every single time I thought like they're gonna get it together, it was like now this is game 6. I'm thinking like this is what's gonna happen. Like they're gonna get it together. So for me, what you just said about the Texans, I gotta kind of see you guys come back and get it together. you got the draft picks on the defensive side with the DBs on kind of what we talked about
Yeah.
before the draft. You wanted to see them get some corners. They go first 2 picks and get corners. I think Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are going to be huge. Hopefully, everyone stays healthy, especially Cooper. But I got you guys at 6 just based off of you got to just kind of come back and show the world what it is because you guys kind of fell apart. Something crazy that I'll say. So 6, I think, is not terrible. People probably would have you maybe 10, probably be disrespectful.
Oh yeah,
like they're not gonna. No, you still have the roster. It's really going to be I'll say this: Nick Sirianni is his seat getting kind of warm because I don't know about old boy. Really, honestly, I don't really like his attitude at all.
Yeah, I think it was last year too. Yeah.
Players seems like they rally around and they haven't really said anything negative about him. But for me, outside looking in, don't really like the dude. I've said this to you off here. He kind of reminds me of like a frat boy. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah, we'll see where you guys are. I like the quarterback, obviously. Love the roster as a whole. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I got him at 6 as well. Like you were saying with Nick Sirianni, it's kind of he got a lot of what is it? Deserved criticism, I think is the term. Like the defense was a disaster, but you put that staff together. You hired Sean Desai, then you fired him after like two weeks where they gave up a lot of points or whatever, and then promoted Matt Patricia. Like that's an awful decision. Then offensively, they're a disaster. Can't handle the blitz. Your team's falling apart. It looks like everyone quit on you, but you don't even call the plays on offense. Like, what do you do here as a head coach? If you're not running the defense, you're not running the offense, the team quit.
Right.
They're not even fighting for you as a whole, as a collective. And it's like, what's the reason you're around? What are you doing as a head coach? And I think that is really fair criticism of him. So, but yeah, we'll see how this season goes. I think this is really like a make it or break it year for the Eagles. They really need to bounce back because with that roster, and all talent all over the field, they should definitely at least be in the NFC Championship, if not in the Super Bowl this year, just based on talent alone. So, and again, he put this staff together coming into this season with Vic Fangio on defense, Kellen Moore on offense. He's not calling any plays or anything. So this is your staff. This is your team. You have the roster. You have the coaches you handpicked. So I better not see any sort of blowouts to Bucks team in the playoffs this year. It has to be different. It needs to be different. And that part of that pressure and blame is going to be on the QB too. Jalen Hurts, he was getting kind of some hate last year, and he didn't play as well as he did in 2022, so he kind of deserved it. Not all that to say, I think top 6 is very reasonable for them. Like I said before, that game 1, Eagles Packers in Brazil is gonna be a impactful game for the NFC, and we'll see how the season shakes out.
So 5, I'm gonna put the Texans. Don't same thing. 5. Like everybody calm down. I don't think this is too high. I think they could be anywhere from 8 to 5. In that area. So you could put them whatever your preference may be, but I think they're gonna ride that wave, man. I really, especially because how CJ started preseason. He was throwing picks, and he even said like, I know y'all think I'm butt because of how I play, but hey, he completely turned it around by the end of the season and just became a superstar, really. And they hit on him, and they hit on Will Anderson. They hit on hiring D'Amico. So I just feel like it's just going to keep rolling, man. As long as he stays healthy, they're having the roster now that they've never had. Well, not never had, but that they haven't had in a long time since Deshaun and JJ were there. And I even think their roster is a little bit better than even when they were there. So,
Yeah.
barring any injury, I think that's the only way that they don't live up to this expectation. But I'm excited to see what they do, and really looking forward to the battles that he has with Patrick Mahomes as well. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah. I I don't blame you. You know, that's very fair, and I think I could easily see the Texans being top five. For me, now I am going to put the Lions at five. You know, hell of a season last year. Should have been in the Super Bowl last year. Didn't get it done in the NFC Championship game, and I think that's part of the reason why I don't have them in like the top three, just because it's going to be so hard to get back to the NFC Championship. Um, it's so rare, and love the coach, love the roster. Um, I think
I agree.
they have the best line in the league now. Until the Eagles
Yep.
can prove that they can replace Jason Kelsey, I think they have the slot for best O line in the league. And defensively they had troubles. They had trouble in coverage last year, but what did they do? Like immediately drafted Terrion Arnold and made adjustments in the draft to help that secondary and their coverage. So I think they're primed to have a good season. It's just more of like
right.
Just kind of history shows us it's just so hard to win again and do so well. And yeah, I think 5 is reasonable.
Right.
I could, but at the same time, if they end up going to the Super Bowl this year, then I'm happy. So
Okay,
good for
so
them.
4 for me, I have the Ravens.
Okay, now we are at 4.
Man, it's just it
Okay.
sucks to see how talented and how much desire Lamar, has, and just not being able to get over the hump of being a force in the playoffs, playing consistently and being healthy, all those things in the playoffs. And there's the controversy of have they put enough around him? Like, does he have the wide receivers? For me, I don't really feel like they draft wide receivers well. I saw somewhere uh, an older GM was saying on this podcast about he was going crazy. They've had Hollywood Brown, they've had Rashad Bateman. They just got Zay Flowers, and it's like, okay, well, the offensive coordinator was different when Hollywood and Rashad was there. It's a different guy now, and Zay is a different wide receiver than he's kind of similar to Marquise, but I wouldn't say a little shiftier, I would say, and hasn't had. Well, he's only played one season, but
Yeah,
Marquise
a
has
little
some injuries
shiftier.
as well that
Yeah,
kept him off the field.
yeah,
But Rashad, I really I don't know why he's even been put into
yeah,
that conversation, because not only
yeah,
has he been injured, he's been very average when he is playing. He's not a guy that's like, you're planning for him. You are not planning for Rashad Bateman, and let's just be real about that.
yeah.
He's not a force, whether it's him being too big, too fast, whatever. No, he's just very average. So I wouldn't say that, and I don't really feel like they draft wide
Definitely.
receivers very well. But it's unfortunate for Lamar. I have them at 4 just because of their head coach. Love John Harbaugh. He's done it consistently, so you can't count him out. Um, Love their defense. Their defense is going to be a force as well. So when you really have that and you have the quarterback right, um, you can't really go wrong with that. It's just like, are they going to have the same issues that they always have? Is the offense going to be stagnant when they need it to make that jump? And they really should have beat the Chiefs in that AFC Championship game. There was
Yeah,
no excuse on that. So I got them at 4.
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, you said it well. I have them. I don't have them at 4, so I'll talk about them a little more. Um, but I now at 4 have the Packers. Um, you know, yeah, which may be surprising to some, but they have a really good team. I'm trying to see what their strength of schedule. It's kind of middle of the pack, but just based on kind of how the
Yeah.
season, not technically how the season ended because it ended on a terrible Jordan Love interception, but besides that, like the just overall growth that team had in that season was really special. Um, and
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur just has shown me since the minute he got there that he's going to figure it out. So I think any sort of struggles they have offensively or as a team, it's going to be squashed by the end of the season, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with this season. I think they have the right pieces around Jordan Love, and I think they're going to take a step. They hired a new defensive coordinator. Their defense is really struggling last year, but they hired a new defensive coordinator. I think that's going to make a major impact. And not that this had a decision or impact on my decision to put them top 5, but I did see that someone pointed out that they won the Super Bowl in 1996, then they won it in 2010. So every 14 years, it seems like they're going to win the Super Bowl. So if they win the Super Bowl this year, you heard it here first. Every 14 years, the Packers win the Super Bowl. So that would be fun. But yeah, I think they're gonna take another step forward. They showed a lot last year, and it was kind of a surprise to some. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took another big step forward.
3, I'm going to go to 49ers.
Now we are at 3.
Right. Yeah, man, I just feel like, with this Brandon Ayuk drama, definitely if he leaves, this is why I'm going to have him there. But even if he stays, for me, it's just like you get to 2 Super Bowls, you lose both of them. You can be, the high power offense that they are. You can have all the all-star players that you have. I'm tired of people trying to downplay like they don't have all these all-pros, with more all-pros than any other team, and trying to make it seem like, it's just like they're putting it together,
right.
and this team is just special. Yeah, special in the fact that they have,
Right.
The most best players on the planet on one team, So, but to that point, they kind of reach on Ricky Pearsall. I liked we talked about him before the draft. I kind of had like a second to third round grade on him. Didn't think that he would go in the first round. So I think that was a little bit of a reach that he's already gone on the PUP list right before training camp. So I just think they have a lot going on. The money issues with them is going to be big, having to pay Purdy at the end of the season, depending on how he plays. Are you going to move Debo? Is Brandon Ayuk going to be there? Trent Williams, he's aging. He's 34, 33, I think. It's just a lot going on for them, and then they show that they can do well during the regular season and overcome some adversity. But when it comes to the big game, they're going to lose, and I'm happy when it happens every time. So Niners fans, however you feel about that is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have them at 3, and we'll see what ends up happening with all their drama, wide receiver wise.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Give me 1 sec. I want to check to see all pros. Yeah, they had 5 all pros, which is the most. Last year they had Kyle Juszczyk, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Fred Warner, and George Kittle were all.
And you could argue that it's really 6,
Cowboys
even though
had 4,
Debo
Ravens,
and
Chiefs
Brandon
had 3.
Ayuk on it, but those dudes are, you know what I mean. So or 7, I should say. Yeah, so
right, Pro Bowl, All Pro, same kind of shit. Yeah. No, I definitely I see the vision. For me at 3, I'm gonna have the Ravens. Like you were saying, they have the QB, they have the coach, defense is good. It's just kind of again all on Lamar. I was really disappointed with how that AFC Championship game went, and I think it all, not all, but a lot of that blame should go on his shoulders. It's a team game, but at the end of the day, he did not play at the MVP level that he was at all season. And that was really their game for the taking. And they just did not show up and not do what needed to be done. But with that being said, I still think they're a really good team, and they're gonna figure it out and be in the conversation. The only issue with the Ravens that could come haunt them is losing their defensive coordinator, who had them playing at a
McDonald
very high level last year. Mike.
Right. Yeah. When I first heard his name, I'm like, is he McDaniel too? Or
yeah. All these Mike Mix, Mike's, Mike. Yeah, Mike McDonald. Yeah, that could be a really big loss, but they still have the pieces. Kyle Hamilton, I think, you could argue,
definitely,
take away quarterback. I think he played probably top 5 at any position in the league last year. So he's the real deal. They're going to be a team for sure. But yeah, I think we'll just have to see how it all shakes out.
The Lions.
So now we're at 2. We got a 2.
It was heart-wrenching to see the Niners almost lose to the Packers, and then I'm like, the way that game was going, how they were beating them so bad at the beginning, and how they got a great start. And usually the Niners get the great start, and they don't really play from behind, and especially the way the Lions are running the ball with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I was like, yeah, man, it's lights out. But of course, and we talked about this off air, and everyone talked about how, the decision making that was done by the head coach. No, I'm a fan of the head coach. I'm not a fan of what he chose to do.
For the record, I am a fan.
Yeah, not. But I love the head coach. I love what he's done for them. We can't ignore what he's done for them. They won the NFC which they hadn't in 30 years. So credit to them.
Yeah.
But I just feel like he's very edgy and emotional, which people think that head coaches shouldn't be that. It should just be the players. But no, like that bringing that energy to your locker room is infectious, and it's important. And you exactly, and it shows the way that they choose to love him and how they speak about him
on the team. The way they play.
I do feel like you got to reel it in sometimes. And people talk about, well, like that's what they always have done. They always gone on 4th down. And that's cool. If that's their mantra and he believes, and he even said it, I believe, that he believes in his team, and that's why he chooses to do that. But there's times where you have to say, look, I'm in this specific position right now, and maybe what we always do, we don't need to do. And that's okay to do that in certain spots to do that. And I just feel like, the plays weren't executed, forget his name. Last name is Reynolds. Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds. He had a couple drops, and then he had a key one in one of the 4th downs that allowed the Niners to get back into the game. So they had the play, and he had drops. He didn't play very well that game. But I just also feel like if you take the points in those certain situations, maybe they still come back. But I think that gave the Niners the momentum to see, like, all right, this is like the 3rd straight time they're not getting it. Things are falling apart. Momentum is a real thing. People that really haven't played football or don't really understand that is a real thing, where it's like the other team is starting to lose that edge, and the other team that's an actual real life thing that happens. And so I feel like that happened during that game, and then the rest is history. But to that point, I do feel like they're gonna get back to to the NFC game. I really do. I feel like the main issues that we already talked about how they have the best line. They have great wide receivers. Jared Goff has been playing, out of his mind, way better than I thought when he first got, traded there. So kudos to him too. 2-headed monster at running back. But there are two, weaknesses I felt like was, corner and edge. Now, they didn't really address edge as much, but Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like, is a force enough. They did get DJ Reader, who I think that's going to be a big, help for them in at the D tackle position. But they drafted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. out of Mizzou in the 2nd round. So they went double corner, kind of like how you guys did. So I think it's there for them to do it again. Just certain
Yeah.
decision makings, you're gonna have to calm down a little bit and realize, you only get to this position, you know, certain teams that are put together, special teams, special moments, and you got to kind of, make the right decision. Like Andy Reid is perfect example of during the right moment, the right play. He's always going to call the right thing every single time, and we've seen it time and time again. And so, hopefully we see them do it this year. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah, I disagree, but that's yeah, but it's fine. Uh, nah, I definitely I see where you're coming from. I definitely uh feel like they should be in the combo. The NFC North is going to be a fun division to watch between them, the Packers, and then the ascending Bears. Who knows how they're going to be with their QB situation. They could take off, and then the Vikings. We'll see.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's a division I look forward to keeping tabs on for sure. Um,
Right.
Number two for me is the dreaded my nemesis again, Cliff Kingsbury and the 49ers, my nemesis. Yeah, like we've been saying, talent out the wazoo or whatever the saying is. They got talent everywhere. One of, if not the best offensive mind in the game at head coach. Just year after year, doesn't matter what happens, they're going to have a top offense, even with average to above average QB play. They're always going to be cooking offensively and defensively
Right.
every year too. It seems they lose a defensive coordinator to a head coaching job or whatever, firings, whatever. But somehow, some way, they just seem to figure it out. Their defense is always good for some reason. Their offense is going to be good. Kyle Shanahan, they have the roster. It's just, can they get over the
Yeah.
hump
Nope.
and finally win a Super Bowl after all these years in the Shanahan era? I, he's he said nope. Yeah, hopefully not.
2017 or
He's
18.
I think
Yeah.
Shanahan has been there since 2017 or something, I want to say. Yeah. So they've had a lot of regular season success, but haven't been able to win the whole thing yet. And um, I wouldn't, again, that's another team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the NFC Championship again, playing one of the Lions, the Packers, the Eagles, one of those teams. So I think, I think until they are dethroned, they're going to be the top team in the NFC. So I got them at 2.
There's only one team left.
And then, I assume, there's only one team left for both of us. Yes. So
Man, back-to-back Super
we
Bowls.
both got the Chiefs. What's
having
your
the head coach,
reasoning
right? Best head
behind
coach
having
in
the
the
Chiefs
league,
at
having
1?
the best quarterback in the league of this generation, this new generation. Time and time again, and I just feel like
Yeah.
this last season showed not just how well the coach and keeping the locker room together and the positive energy that Andy Reid has done, but just if you didn't think that Patrick Mahomes was the best quarterback before that season, like everyone else did, you have to know and give him the credit now, because what he was able to
Mm-hmm.
do with that wide receiver room, probably the most funky, just terrible wide receivers that you could ever want on a team. Nobody would ever say they would want any of the wide receivers that he
Yeah.
had last year, except for Rashee Rice, who was a
Yep.
rookie. The only person who showed any type of consistency and promise, didn't drop the ball, but able to do it with that wide receiver room is nuts. The defense definitely carried that team as a whole. But, people always said earlier in his career, like, what is it going to look like for Patrick Mahomes when he has a defense? Well, now we're seeing what it looks like. He has the defense. Now it looks like the wide receiver room is revamped. They have Marquise Brown that they picked up in free agency. They still have Rashee Rice coming off his second year, and then they draft Xavier Worthy in the first round. So I think it's going to be really nasty, man. And it's not crazy to say that they're going to three-peat. So I have them three-peat, obviously with how I have them ranked. But I don't think it's going to be as crazy as people think, because they had a worse team offensively last year. They have a better team offensively this year. And if he stays healthy, Patrick Mahomes, it's really going to be lights out.
Yeah. Yep. Preaching for sure. Yeah. I mean, it seemed like everything people were saying in the offseason, they proved wrong during the season. It was, you know, oh, you can't pay Mahomes and still win. They went and won the Super Bowl. Oh, he doesn't have a good enough offense. Their defense isn't good enough. Defense was one of the best in the league. Took them to the Super Bowl. Oh, Mahomes can't win on the road. All his playoff games have been at home. This year he went to Buffalo and to Baltimore, beat them both, won the Super Bowl. So any doubts you had about that team, that QB, that coach, they got to be out the fucking window until, again, like with the Niners, until they get dethroned, until someone goes into their house, or if the Chiefs end up going on the road and beat them straight up like a Bengals back in 2021. Until that happens, you can never count this team out. I don't care what the record is on Christmas Day. I don't care if they lose to whoever. They play you guys on Christmas this year. Yeah. Last year they got whooped by the Raiders on Christmas Day, and everyone was saying the fucking sky was falling, and they were done, me included. I'm not going to act like I didn't think otherwise. I too thought they were cooked just because of how bad the offense looked, and you could tell the receivers were affecting Patrick Mahomes as well. After every game, he's saying, "Oh, I got to play better. I got to, do this, do that." I was like, "No, bro. We watch the games. You're throwing the balls at their hands. They're dropping them. You're doing fine." But that just goes to show what kind of leader and person he is, to never go out there and say like, "My receivers aren't good enough. I need better." Just to be like, "No, it's on me. I can do this. I can do that." Which goes a long way, and I'm sure that means a lot to those guys in the locker room. And like you said, with the new additions offensively, they're fucking fast. They're young. They're hungry. I think we'll just have to see how it all shakes out. L'Jarius Sneed is a
definitely
sneakily big loss for them. I think that's going to have an impact on their defense, but I think Spags will figure it out. And they're going to be in the convo and playing in the AFC Championship again, like they do every year since. I think every single year they've been in the AFC Championship since Mahomes has been there as the starter. So yeah. So again, they will be there. It's just a matter of is it going to be the Ravens, Bengals, Texans, whoever who's going to be playing them when the time comes. Yeah, that's definitely the best team in the NFL, no question. Yeah. But yeah, that does it. I'll just quickly run through. So for Brock, we got from 1 to 32, we got Chiefs, Lions, 49ers, Ravens, Texans, Eagles, Packers, Bills, Cowboys, Bengals, Dolphins, Steelers, Jets, Browns, Rams, Bears, Jags, Seahawks, Chargers, Bucks, Falcons, Colts, Cardinals, Vikings, Commanders, Saints, Titans, Giants, Panthers, Patriots, Raiders, Broncos. And for me, we got the Chiefs, Niners, Ravens, Packers, Lions, Eagles, Texans, Cowboys, Bengals, Bills, Steelers, Chargers, Jets, Dolphins, Browns, Rams, Bears, Falcons, Jags, Colts, Seahawks, Cardinals, Bucks, Vikings, Saints, Commanders, Titans, Raiders, Panthers, Broncos, Patriots, Giants. Yeah. So we'll see how that all shakes out. We'll keep tabs on it, and after the season ends, maybe we'll take a look back and see where we went right, where we went wrong. Yeah. So
let's do it.
Until then, let's hop into grind our gears and wrap this thing up. Okay,
man. Today I'm just going to say
what's grinding your
media,
gears these
which
days, man?
That should be a surprise, because the media, they get paid to be annoying. They get paid to, just try to get the worst. It seems like the media is not even anything positive anymore these days. It's just be antagonistic, be first, even though if you're wrong. And so right now, for me, it's like
Yeah.
the media tries to make players look bad for doing what's best for them.
Yep.
So recently, obviously, Caleb Williams was the last to sign in the draft class.
Mm.
And when he did sign, he wants the Bears to pay him as an LLC. So basically paying him as a business. And that's the first time that a player, but especially a rookie, is doing this. And that's what's kind of going on right now, on Twitter, X, whatever. And yeah, that as a right. And people were saying like,
Oh
man,
wow.
why
Yeah,
haven't anyone why
I didn't
hasn't
know
anyone
that
done
was
this
even a
before?
thing. That was
But
possible.
to the point,
Yeah.
it's like he's doing something that's different, but he's doing what is going to be the best interest for him and his future family if he has one, or his current family that he has that he wants to take care of. And what's wrong with that? But people are saying, it's always drama with him, and why couldn't he have signed earlier? Hey, first of all, he's just there to play football. That's between the agent and the organization. First off, he just tells his agent what he wants and everything like that. But that's not in his power to get the deal done faster or by a certain date.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of sick of the media always doing their due diligence to make sure that there's hatred
Yeah.
towards these athletes that they could never even hope to dream to be like at all, but they want to be able to have their opinion to say this is what they should do or shouldn't do, and it doesn't make sense and never will make sense. And as the media, I just feel like they need to do a better job of just being positive, uplifting the players. You can still have your opinions on this, that, and the third, but just to put hate out on a player for no reason, just because you feel like they should do something differently, is just, kind of asinine to me. So,
Yeah. No, you're preaching. I was trying to look it up while you were talking, but I feel like I remember specifically, was it not Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa
oh,
who
it's true.
both held out their rookie
No, that did
year
happen.
like
Yeah.
very late to signing their contracts because they wanted certain money and stuff, yeah, people do it every year, but I don't know why for some reason
Nuisance or
Caleb
something. Yeah.
Williams is getting the most hate as if like he's some sort of drama queen because he's doing what everyone else is doing. It doesn't make sense. Like
Controversial.
even
Yeah.
in his own draft
Yeah.
class, I would argue Marvin Harrison is way more dramatic and doing a lot more, stuff that should warrant
Yeah.
more of that hate.
Why not
You
sign
and
just
I
to
have
have
had
your
conversations
jersey
off air. It's kind of
be
like,
in
yo, what
Madden
is
and
he
all that?
doing?
That was
Like,
just
why?
weird.
Like it was like the weird. Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, that shit is just like, okay, we know you want to,
Yeah.
make your money and do your thing, but some of the shit is just like, I just didn't understand it. And it wasn't being explained, but at the same time, that's part of, like you said, that's on the media to say, why is Marvin Harrison doing this? Or like
Yeah.
explain, here's why. I don't see that
Right.
shit anywhere, but Caleb Williams does his thing and people want to write essays about it. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, my my grind my gears segment is just gonna be um with camp starting up. It hasn't happened yet, but and I'm not on social media right now, so I'm not gonna see it at this moment, but you guys just need to pay attention. Once camp starts, you're gonna start hearing about players being in the best shape of their lives. Everyone's turning heads at camp, whatever that means. People are turning heads, best shape of their life, never look better. All of that is bullshit. It bothers
Yeah.
me every year. Reporters do it, players do it, coaches, everybody. Man, it's so annoying, and it's the same shit every time. They like I don't know why they can't think of new things to say, but
Next week. Yeah.
just keep an eye out for that. It's gonna come soon because camp is starting up. So yeah, you're gonna hear all those fucking corny ass phrases. Best shape of his life, turning heads, and uh you know looks brand new,
Right.
body new, whatever. It's gonna something about the way someone looks. All of those you're gonna be hearing that shortly. So I just wanted to get ahead of that because that shit bothers me every single time. It's just like, can we just
Right.
not say he's in the best shape of his life? Can we just not even talk about that player? Just move
Fair,
on.
because
It's
you're
fine.
not wrong. That is something
So
that
that shit
is
is
talked
annoying to me.
about all the time,
But
every season. So
yeah, every season. Yeah. So that's all we got this week. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on all the streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Follow us on socials at Steelbirds Podcast on Instagram, and follow us individually at It's Sports CK and at
yes, sir.
Brock
See y'all next
_IV
time.
on every social. And we will catch you all next week.